But anyways, yeah. Let's see. Millionaire student claims this broke student is more privileged than her. I mean, I can only assume that the broke student is white and the millionaire student is black. Like, I mean, kind of speak for itself usually.
So they're sitting in front of 700 students in this classroom.
So I have like a $2,000 bill that I gotta figure out how to pay in like the next 2 weeks.
A black student who comes from a very wealthy family with millions of dollars is going to tell a white student who can't afford to pay her tuition that she has more privilege than her.
My grandparents came from Jamaica, started a business, and then they became millionaires in New York.
She clearly has far more privilege and power than her.
But that's looking between the two, you wouldn't be able to tell. And it's all about the optics.
Because she has white skin, well,
oh my god. Tell me who the real racists are without telling me who the real racists are. Like, holy man. Judging a person by the color of their skin. I wouldn't be able to tell who is more privileged. One is black, so clearly she's less privileged. Like, oh man. And you're calling Republicans or like us, the whiteys, the racists? Give me a break, man.
that she has more power than I could ever have, even though she has no money and I come from millions of dollars, but she has more privilege than I do.
And that's how America works.
It's all about the optics.
That's how America works.
Yeah?
That's how
We don't
racists
know that you have to pay $2,000. We don't know that your family's wealthy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, how does that work in your favor? At the end of the day, looking at you, you're still white.
It's fascinating to me that someone could try and make the argument that having millions of dollars
Oh my
gives you
God,
less privilege than the color of your skin. We're going to watch her try and make that case.
In what ways is she better off than her, man? Like, in what ways? Like, I don't see any way in which she's...
From the visual, like before you get to know them, before they open their mouths, what do you assume?
So we are making assumptions about someone's circumstances.
Jesus Christ, bro. Oh my god. Now, I love this professor. He's pretty based, but he's using instead of telling you the answer, he's guiding you with questions towards the answer, right? For you to understand the message, right? And again, if you come to a different conclusion, that's also fine. I don't think I ever seen him pressure anyone. Not this guy, the old guy, the older guy, the professor. I don't think I've ever seen him try to convince somebody. He was just ask them questions, and then based on how these people answer, they come to a realization of why they're wrong, which is kind of funny because when you use this strategy, when Charlie Kirk uses this strategy and just ask questions, people just instead of answering, they just get triggered and they just start calling Charlie names whatever, you're fucking Nazi, I don't care. It's just they're realizing why they're wrong, they can't answer, and because there's a mental fight inside of their fucking brain, they're whatever, you don't know what you're talking about, and they leave, right? And you're bro, but you just why can't you answer the question then if I don't know what I'm talking about? It's oh, you're manipulating me with the questions. It's but it's a regular question. You can just say that's call out the manipulation and explain why it's manipulative. But they can't, right? It's oh, you manipulated me. So it's it's your fucking reality. That is fucking skewed, man.
Circumstances based on the color of their skin. Got it. And Sam Richards does a good job. He actually calls her out here.
I'm sitting out here, and I'm just the average person who's thinking about this stuff, right? And I'm like, man, you have not made a convincing argument, because your framework doesn't account for the fact that Alex's family is rich, and her family, I'm just going to say
But they're
rich.
two separate issues.
Yeah, we're talking about race and white privilege, and we're talking about the wealth inequality gap.
The whole point, though, logically, is that you're getting the DEI benefit because of your socioeconomic need. So how could we possibly disconnect the reality of your socioeconomic status from the need of getting that benefit?
So basically what he's saying is the whole purpose of DEI is that black people are at a disadvantage in the workplace, and economically they're at a disadvantage. So we are trying to help them get into these jobs that they're supposed to be also qualified for. Supposedly, that's not how DEI works. Just to make sure that they're represented and they're able to dig themselves out of a bad economical status. But then you go to an interview and you have her who is, let's assume, right? I'm not saying that she is. Let's assume she's more qualified for the role, and the black woman is less qualified, right? But then they're oh well, we don't have enough black people here, especially black women, so we're gonna hire her because we're gonna also this is what DEI believes, right? Like, oh, we're trying to like help the inequality, yada yada. But then it's like, well, but this black woman comes from a very rich family and she's very resourceful and she doesn't really need this job. She can get any other job, like for either family connections or like honestly, she might be even well off and she's just like has investments of her own from like her millions of dollars that her parents gave her. I'm like assuming, right? And then, you know, she doesn't even need the job, but she just wants the job, right? Meanwhile, this one is like about to be kicked out of her apartment because like she has no money. She can't even pay like a $2,000 debt that she has, like, you know, for like the last half year or whatever, right? So it's like, how does DEI work in this case? You know, like it will still favor the black woman. That's the problem with DEI.
Yeah, but white privilege is also about wealth and inequality. They're all together. I don't know how you could separate them. I'm not talking people sitting right here in her seat that are going like, I'm not getting this.
You're going to see her get cornered. She's going to try and separate privilege from how much money you have.
White privilege is basically just saying, statistically speaking, if you're a person of like Caucasian background, your family is more likely to have generational wealth. That's gonna allow you, you know,
That's
to
extremely not the case. That is extremely not the case. There's more. Oh my god. Percentage of people of population in the US using food stamps based on skin color. White is using 37%, African American is 26%. And this is by percentage. So okay, so let's see, 36 to 26, right? What is the population based on race in the US? Okay, so you have 59% whites versus 12.6% African American. Okay, what is population of the US? Calculator, please. 340 million times 0.59. So you have 200,600,000. So you have 200,600,000. Okay, versus. Okay, then you have 12.6. Okay, so 340 million times 0.126, 12.6. And you have 43,000, right? So you have 43,000. This is the impoverished line, right? Like this is, you have 200,600,000 people on food stamps that are white versus 43,000 black people who are white, who are black. Okay, who are using food stamps. So in no circumstance do I see that, and again, outliers, maybe some people have a harder time to get food stamps, whatever. The thing here is that, wait, no, dude, I am so stupid. Hold up. No, wait, whoa. Sorry. This is just population. My bad. This is just the population, okay? The population is, no, so this is right. This is just the population. 43,000, right? 43 million. Jesus, whew, man. All right, so you have, this is the population. Okay, cool. Now from this, right, so you have 200,600,000, and then you have how many of them? 44.6, right? So times 0.446. Okay, so you have basically 89.5 million. Okay, so you have 89.5 million versus on food stamps versus I'm not even talking about like child recipients. Versus 27%. Okay, versus 43 million. 1 to 3 times, what was it? 27% times 0.27. Okay, so you got 11.5 million versus 11.5 mil. Okay, now what is the ratio here? Like 89.5 divided by 11.5. So for every black person, there's almost 8 white people that are impoverished. That are using food stamps. Now you can say that it's like, oh, maybe excess, whatever. Maybe it's an outlier, but like probably at least with like what do you call it? Margin of error, maybe 6. Okay, even 5, but it's definitely not even 1-to-1. It's definitely not blacks are more impoverished than whites. So under no circumstance are black people worse off than white people in the U.S. Just like statistically speaking, if she wants to talk statistics, just saying.
Be privileged like her into getting college.
Says the student who comes from a family with millions of dollars.
My grandparents came from Jamaica, started a business, and then they like became like millionaires like in New York. So there's always anomalies, but at the same time, it's gonna be it's difficult.
No wonder you're arguing for why having money doesn't give someone privilege. The color of their skin does, because then you wouldn't be able to make a claim on being victimized and not having privilege.
It is.
So one thing you just said, your grandparents became millionaires in New York?
Well,
like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Dude, so right there, the moment you say that, you understand, if I'm her, if I'm you, I'm just like, and now I'm in a class and we're going to start throwing words around like race inequality and white privilege and this and that, and I'm you. What do you think she's thinking?
I feel like, she'd probably think, I feel like it's still weird though, because it's still like an anomaly. That's just one person in my whole entire family that
Anomaly or not, bro, but that just shows that there is no discrimination because they were able to make so much money while being immigrants. You know why they made so much money? Not only because they're smart, but because they probably came from an impoverished country and they knew what hard work meant, because it probably was very hard work just to even get to the US, to have enough money to go to the US, to save enough money to go to the US. So they were believers of hard work, and they had a good head on their shoulders, not just like hard work, obviously. So it literally just shows the opposite, that like in the US, they don't discriminate. Like, do you have some discrimination in the US? Yes, but it's not systemic. Why? Because you can't get places. Okay? It's like, oh, but it's easier for the white person. Is it though? Is it, based on what I just showed you with the food stamps? Is it really that easy? It's like, oh, maybe like black people are just smarter than white people. Well, if they're smart, then they're privileged with their smarts, right? So there's no discrimination here either. Like there's no privilege for the white person either, because black people are smart. Like no matter how you spin it, it's like, oh, it's an anomaly. But it's like, this anomaly proves that there is no actual discrimination. Nobody's out there trying to get them. Nobody's preventing them from advancing.
Me to be where I am today.
It does take one person. You can be the one person, which is why it's so important to teach students that you have the capacity to succeed rather than this victim mentality. And you are evidence of that. Then she contradicts herself and claims that privilege actually is having 2 parents in the home and financial resources.
Everything is privilege if you compare it to something else. Yeah, having 2 parents in the home is privilege compared to having 1 parent in the home. Sure. Plenty of white people don't have 2 parents in the home. Like, this is not like a black race problem, right? There's plenty of people don't have 2-parent homes. Like, plenty of what's the divorce rate? Like 50%, right, in the U.S. Almost 50% of all marriages in the United States will end in divorce or separation. Many of these, one of the parents is not gonna be in the home. Right, it's not going to be nearby. Maybe like they have weekend custody, whatever, but that's not the same as having like. So even if it's better than having a 1-parent household, which we can argue back and forth if it is, it's still not 2 parents in the home. So 50% of the population, that's way more than just the black population of the United States. So that means vast majority of those are white people who don't have 2 parents in the home. Right. And by the way, everything is like if you compare it, everything is a privilege versus like one, I don't know, the opposite of privilege. Okay, yeah, two parents in the home is a privilege compared to somebody who has divorced parents or has one parent in the home. Yeah, being born into money is a privilege to not being born into money. Being born in the US is a privilege to people who are not born in the US. Right? It's like everything is like, it's just a comparative, like you compare shit, like it's just a comparative, it's a game of comparisons, like whatever.
Tile-wise, there's going to be more people, more white people, like of Caucasian background, who have like two parents, two grandparents of that same background, and that's where the privilege comes in.
Having
Now,
two
it's
parents.
true, there are also more parents, more white people with two parents home, just based on statistics, because there's more white people, but also there's more people without two parents in the home than there are black people without parents in the home. It depends on how you want to look at it.
Parents in the home and having financial stability. Okay, then if we can apply that lens consistently across all races, I'm all for it. But that's not what's happening, and you're proving that.
You're saying that you grew up poor. However, you do attend a PWI, and I feel like that in itself gives you a privilege versus somebody who, let's say, that was person of color in your situation, mom wasn't working, X, Y, and Z. Would they still have the opportunity to attend Penn State?
This is the most revealing logic set within this entire exchange.
But then, how come she's a student there while being a person of color? Then she's just as privileged. If like we use that logic, then she's just as privileged as the white person who attends the same university or college.
Meaning that an individual in the exact same socioeconomic circumstance, but with a different skin color, would not be able to go to the college. Why?
Versus somebody who, let's say, that was person of color in your situation, mom wasn't working, X, Y, and Z. Would they still have the opportunity to attend Penn State?
If you have the exact same amount of money, it seems that you would be even more likely to be able to attend that college because of DEI opportunities, as we're about to see.
The white guy, he's just, like, we throw these words around and we throw stuff around and we take classes like 119 and we throw words and we expect everyone to get the white privilege stuff. It's like, people aren't getting, it's not landing, it's not going to land.
They then move into DEI, and Sam Richard does something interesting here where he uses a thought experiment. He brings another student up on stage.
So we're going to line the poorest up down here up to the richest. And the richest black person in here, by the way, is probably pretty damn rich. Here, stand up. We're going to do this metaphorically, right? We're going to walk down. We're going to decide who's deserving of something.
What point can we make this decision? Let's imagine there's a line here of people of the same race.
Imagine there are people here.
Okay.
You're rich. No, we're not giving you anything.
Yeah.
No. And then we start getting down here to the people who are a little less connected.
Yeah.
And now we got a problem because we're like,
And you can see on the students' faces that they find this fascinating. So you can see the wheels turning.
where do you draw the line here between this person and that person, right?
The student is actually trying to rationalize this and create this ranking system.
Let's say it's kind of crazy. Out of 10, they're like rich to poor, and then 10 being the richest, like 1 being the poorest.
Yeah.
I feel like if somebody's like 7 out of 10, you would give them 3. That makes sense. 5 out of 10, you give them 5.
Okay, yeah.
Then he asked a really interesting question.
Does diversity, equity, and inclusion include white people?
Sometimes.
When?
And occasions like,
Women,
yeah, exactly.
disabled, people who are
Yeah.
disabled.
Does it ever include a white male?
How about able-bodied white men who are not disabled?
Poverty?
Often does it include them?
If they're like impoverished.
Leave a comment
But
if you
does
could
it?
think of a single DEI program
But
that
does
does
it?
take into account
No, it
white
doesn't.
men. I'm not aware of any. I could be wrong.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, what DEI programs really involve class and social class and economic wealth?
It's a good question.
I mean, they should.
Yeah.
And this is part of the problem.
And this is the core unfair aspect.
Which, by the way, I believe that's what it used to be. It's like financial aid for like for families who like don't have as much, and this was across the board. It didn't look at skin or whatever. But at some point, I don't know if it shifted from it, if that program still exists. But now there's just a lot more help for impoverished or whatever skin color than there is for like white people who have the same exact fucking problems. Okay, It's just stupid, man. Like, whoever, like, dude, I don't know, whoever thought up DEI should be fired. Like, straight up. I know, like, maybe like their intention was good, but the way it's playing out, maybe I'm more leaning towards their intentions were malicious, out of revenge for the other, the master race, right? That was probably their intention. But let's be, like, generous and say, like, their intentions were good. They just want to help out, black people and whatever. Let's assume, right? You're doing it at the expense of other people who are also suffering. Sometimes suffering more, sometimes suffering less, but they're also suffering, right? And it's like, how, like, in what world does that seem like a fair system that the government should partake in? And again, a lot of the arguments is like, well, they were like, they're suffering from, generational poverty because of slavery and whatever. And it's like, everyone is suffering from something that, like, my parents, like my great parents, didn't make a good business deal at some point, so they weren't as rich as, like, the oil prince that became, like, the guy who became an oil prince next door, right? Like, you can't make the world fair, right? You can't use the past to justify your actions for the present, like, especially like that far away.
Unavoidable. This is why I respect Sam Richard, because he will point these kind of things out, and he's not afraid to have the conversation.
As far as I know, Penn State has
in
no
the
scholarship.
conduct, by the way, they can't use the past to create fairness right now. You can't use the past as an excuse to create fairness right now. In the context of what I'm talking about, obviously, like, the actions of the past have consequences, yada yada. I'm just saying, like, you can't use an excuse of, like, oh well, these guys were, like, a reason, like, oh, these guys were slaves, therefore, like, that's why they're still, like, they're still impoverished. And it's like, at some point there's also, like, like, personal choices that come into play, like, you can't discount everything that, like, these people are so helpless because they suffered slavery like 300 years ago or whatever, right?
Ships dedicated for poor white people. I don't think there's a single one out there.
Yeah, right now I can't receive more financial aid this semester, so I have like a $2,000 bill that I gotta figure out how to pay in like the next 2 weeks, which sucks.
And meanwhile, sitting next to her is a student that turns out to be very wealthy or from a very wealthy family.
Yeah, so I feel like you're less privileged than me because, well, like, I don't have money, but my parents have money and it's nice, so I don't have to worry about certain things that you have to.
His class has become #1 at the college for this reason, because he is willing to have these kind of conversations. Sam Richard.
Well, not only is he willing to have these conversations, he's not telling you the answer. He's guiding you with questions, and I think that's what a lot of professors should start doing. Instead of telling you you're wrong, they need to show you, to make you understand that you are wrong, or, like, to come to a better conclusion instead of, like, not understand, like, so, like, challenge your own biases, challenge your own talking points. Like, do you actually know why you have the talking point, or do you just have a talking point? And I think that's basically what he does, right? More professors obviously should be doing that, right? The problem is, outside of, like, when other people try to do that by asking questions, right? The reception that they get is like, oh well, you're stupid. Like, you don't know what you're asking. You don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, I just ask you a question. Can you answer? It's like, fuck you, right? Like, that's the response a lot of people get. It is good that in his class, it is not the case. But also in his class, I don't see a lot of pink-haired women, pink-haired, extremely obese women who wear, like, who, like, maybe transitioned as well, right? So it's like, like, I don't see the crazies there. Right, I see a bunch of young kids who look to be interested and just listening to what's going on. Like, they don't come with an agenda, right? Like, I don't see any, like, crazy people. Everyone's dressed normally. Everyone's, like, looks normal. Like, yeah, you have, like, obviously, like, overweight and whatever. Like, that's normal, right? But it's like, see, like, no, like, nobody here looks crazy, right? Everyone's well dressed for, like, a student, like, I think like a big part of it, see everyone, like I don't see any crazy looking person. You know, no Antifas, you know, like no. Yeah, like, so the problem is like, well, not the problem, but like, it's a big boon that like he doesn't have any crazy people, because honestly, if he had like 10 people here who are like, you know, adamant about their agenda, right, they would start a riot based on his questions. Like, let's be real, right? Luckily, he doesn't, or maybe there's a reason he doesn't, because they got kicked out of the course right away. But again, like, you cannot find a single crazy person here, even a bigger, like, the only pink I see is like people's sweaters. I don't see any pink hairs, green hairs, nothing. Everybody is a normal human being. Okay? No Karens, you know, like nobody here looks like you know, like they have a mental disorder. Which is probably like why he can also talk to them. Like, they're willing to listen, they're willing to learn, they're here to learn. That's exactly why they're there. So yeah, like, but if he had like, you know, people find out about this, like the, you know, like the crazy people find out about this and start going like and doing shit, like it'll be the same fucking chaos, right? Like, they can easily do it. Like, just gather 10 crazy people, walk in, start yelling and protesting, and it's like you ruin the whole experience for the class. Obviously, all of them will think that they're crazy. Obviously, he will make a lesson out of like why these people are fucking wrong and ask them more questions about what do you think? Why do you think they did that? Yada yada yada, right? But like, the problem is that the people who, like these guys, obviously they need to learn this as well to like think for themselves, but the people who really need to understand this are those 10 crazies that can walk in and just start shouting and don't want to listen. Those are the people who really need to get this. Obviously, the more people there are that consider them crazy, the better, obviously. But I'm just saying, that's like the real people who need to learn this are not going to be willing to learn this. They're the ones who create riots, who damage property, who like assault other people. They are the crazies that need to learn this. Anyways, that was Warren Smith, Secret Scholar Society. Million student claims this broke student is more privileged than her. Again, good topic. I love these topics. I'm glad like there are classes like this. And honestly, I think this is literally what critical thinking in university has pretty much become. We used to like critical think about like articles or whatever, like, because I was in a critical thinking course at one point. We would just get articles and we would have to critically analyze it and just like come with a, you know, different theories behind certain things, right? And like to prove it with logic, causation, and all that stuff. Now I feel like this is probably more appropriate for today's you know, conversations in society. So thanks for watching. That's it for today, and that's it for the stream as well. Peace.